Welcome to the Emergency Traffic Podcast, where we explore the line of duty deaths of firefighters and paramedics so that we can learn from these tragedies and ultimate sacrifices and possibly prevent them from happening again in the future. My name is Paul, and I'll be your host. I'm a retired deputy fire chief in Western Canada. My co-host today is Doug. Hello, Doug.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
Good, thanks. Enjoying the warmish weather for February. A little windy, but it's Canada and it's February, so we're inside doing a podcast.
It could be a lot worse.
That's right. Could be nasty cold. We're going to get some snow and cold yet, I'm sure. So you've been a busy boy.
Yeah, just had a baby 3 weeks ago.
Nice.
Yeah, spent our second one. So we got a 2-year-old and a new one. So life's pretty busy around the house.
Yeah, and you're working shifts and you're doing a little extra work too.
Yeah, down at the academy for a block. So it was good to nice little change of pace and back at the hall next block.
Yeah, good. You're doing like driver evaluations. That's important this week. We just had that fatality here in central Alberta where the engine on a rural call during an icy response to an MVC rolled, and the one firefighter was killed and the chief was injured, right? So
yeah, sad story there, but
yeah, and a lot of departments can't afford anything beyond the basic operator training, right? And, like I always think we always tried to get the guys to take that emergency vehicle driver training and stuff, which added a lot, I think, to it. But okay, well, here at the Emergency Traffic Podcast, I guess we should do the blurb on. You can follow us on Twitter at emergencytraffic.twitter.com, or you can email us at emergencytrafficpodcast@gmail.com. And we now have a Facebook page, so Emergency Traffic on Facebook. All right, this week's case study is going to be back in February 11th of 1998 in Illinois. 2 male firefighters were fatally injured while fighting a fire at a commercial tire service center, so a tire shop. The 2 fire victims, along with 8 to 10 other firefighters and officers, had entered the front door of a showroom, observed light haze. However, when they entered the service area, black smoke covered the top 1/3 of the ceiling space, but there was no visible fire. From the smoke in the showroom, it was evident that there was probably a smoldering fire somewhere, but none of the firefighters could locate the origin. Both the engine and truck officers made extensive interior sweeps of the service area. However, within minutes, firefighters in the interior of the building were caught in a hazardous backdraft explosion that claimed the lives of 2 firefighters and nearly claimed all those who were inside. And we've heard this so many times in big structures, right, Doug, where, there's just a bit of smoke in the building. We're looking around, we can't find it. And all of a sudden things go downhill fast.
Yeah, kind of might give you a false sense of security that you're at something small or not a very major incident. And I mean, lots of times I think guys won't even put their face piece on if they're able to breathe clean air under the smoke or whatever, and a little bit of smoke, and before you can react, things go bad, right?
Yeah, we all do it. They probably didn't have any air on. They weren't ready for it. There's smoke up above our heads and off we go for sure. There's a video, Phoenix did a video, and it was in the blue card training, but they did a burn in a similar kind of building, and they put pallets and stuff, and it measured how long it took for the smoke to bank down, and it took a long time because of the big structure, right? Yeah. So that's a hazard in these big buildings. Alrighty, well, back to the incident here. So the fire department in question is a large metropolitan department here in North America, in Illinois, serves a population of 2.7 million people in a geographic area of just over 220 square miles, 5,000 employees, 4,200 are uniformed firefighters. All new firefighters get a 4-month training program at their fire department academy, which covers all aspects of level 1 and level 2. As recommended by NFPA. When they complete that and they pass their firefighter level 2 exams, then they're assigned to a station. The department also requires that each firefighter receive a couple hours of training per shift. The one victim had 2 years experience as a firefighter. So a bit of a rookie there, but 18 years as a paramedic. And the second victim had 9 years of experience as a firefighter, which would probably put him in the senior man almost category, probably in most fire departments. I think that's similar to your fire department, that you go on a 3 or 4 month training academy, right?
Yeah, for sure. Very common for major urban fire departments to have their own training academy, and I'm sure they take candidates that already have 1001 training and experience, and they have candidates that have zero training and experience, and they teach them all how to do it their way.
Yeah, you did it both ways, right? You did it on your own kind of first from a college technical school.
Yeah.
Then through it with a volunteer or part-time on-call department that you and I were on together, and then went to the big city and
started all over with 1001 training all over again.
Yeah. So you should have it down pat now. And of course, you taught lots in the part-time and stuff. And I did it the other way. I did my 1001s and stuff over and over about 3 times in different jurisdictions, and took it through the part-time thing. So, okay, to the incident. So on February 11th of 1998, at about 10:24 hours, the fire department received a call from an occupant of a private residence at the rear of a commercial tire service center, stating that there was a fire in the interior of the building. The service center was a masonry block building with a brick facade and on a concrete slab foundation. The tire center measured about 150 feet wide by 62 feet in depth. It had a glass showroom attached to the front that was 75 by 55 feet. Above the parts room, there was a cock loft, unfinished area below the roof where tires, Christmas decoration, and miscellaneous items were stored, believed to be the area of origin of the fire upon investigation. The cock loft area, that storage area, was only accessible from the service area in the back of the store or the shop. The roof was constructed of open wooden bowstring trusses with unprotected polystyrene insulation glued to the underside. And of course, we, as history buffs in the fire service, we all know bowstring wooden trusses. Of course, the famous Hackensack Ford dealership that had a fire similar that they couldn't find, and then eventually burned, and guys were killed in it. It collapsed, right? I wonder if everybody remembers Hackensack. The guys on the job with you, Doug, remember Hackensack?
I'm sure. Sorry, a lot of the guys on my job probably don't even know where Hackensack is. Never mind if they had a big major fire.
I mean, because it's a Ford dealer and you're a Ford, but yeah. All right. The entrance to the service area was either through a standard passage door from the showroom into the service area, which you'd go in with customers and stuff, or through the exterior metal garage door, overhead door for cars to get in and out, which was raised and lowered by an electric motor, similar to most shops today, similar to our fire stations. The units responding initially were Engine 92 with 4. Normal complement was 5, but they were short that day. Engine 120 with 5. Truck 24 with 5, Truck 45 with 5, and Battalion 21, which must have been a battalion chief. Pretty similar to it's a good 1001 or 1071, no, 1710 staffing, having the 12 or 16 guys for that first alarm, probably similar to what most metropolitan cities in Canada and the States have. At 28 hours, so 4 minutes into the call, quick response time, Engine 120 was first to arrive on scene, Engine 92 right behind them. Then the 2 trucks arrived fairly quickly, and the battalion chief. None of the firefighters reported seeing any fire or smoke. So none of the firefighters, one of the firefighters radioed into dispatch to verify the address since they didn't see anything. The address was confirmed by dispatch. And at the same time, the neighbor who called the fire department told the firefighters that he had seen a fire at the rear of the building at approximately 23 hours. So at approximately 22:30 hours, the owner of the business arrived to unlock the front door to the showroom. Approximately 8 to 10 firefighters from the first arriving companies entered the showroom. Some firefighters reported no smoke showing. Others reported observing a slight haze in the showroom when, with the odor of a burning car. They opened the door to the service area at the back, where black smoke was found covering the top 1/3 of the ceiling space. They entered with a charged and 3/4 hose line, which was connected to a 2.5-inch lead-out line, the old leader line Y, probably at the front of the building. Lieutenant from Engine 120 walked deep into the service area along the wall to the south with an attempt to locate a light switch panel. At no time did they feel any excessive heat or see any fire. 2 firefighters from truck 45 in front of the building and 2 firefighters from truck 24 went to the rear of the building. They ascended ground ladders to the roof and cut ventilation holes in the roof with axes. Firefighters on truck 24 stated that there was no smoke or fire showing when they arrived at the rear of the building. However, they noticed that the windows were dark and smoky. They punched a small hole in one window with an axe tip. Black smoke billowed out. This was seen and heard by the truck lieutenant inside doing a survey of the service area. Within 5 to 8 minutes, the 4 firefighters on the roof have chopped a ventilation hole, approximately 4 or 5 foot square. When they peeled back the opening, black smoke was emitting from the hole. However, within 30 seconds, flames also started roaring out the opening. All 4 firefighters immediately picked up their equipment and descended to the ladders to the ground. At about 22:43, so 10 minutes after, the 8 to 10 firefighters and officers who were inside the building had advanced some 15 to 20 feet into the service area where the thick black smoke was above them. They reported running into each other because of the poor visibility. Remember, they couldn't get the lights on. At approximately 22:45 hours, without warning, hot gases that had accumulated at along the 20-foot high ceiling ignited, causing a backdraft situation. This created a pressure wave, knocking the firefighters off balance and to the floor. It is conceivable that just before the time of ignition, the overhead garage door to the service area was self-activated and raised, allowing additional air to fuel the fire. Of course, lots of air down low, right? They always said that for backdrafts. Even though they had vented the top, that garage door would let a lot in. This was determined after. Sorry, Doug?
I was just gonna, as we were talking about this, they must not have had a tick back then in '98. I mean, I wasn't on the job yet, but
no ticks then. The first ticks, well, my fire department here locally bought the first tick. It was like $12,000. We raised money for it. I remember a big MSA tick. That was like high tech, and that was probably right around then, 90, 2000, 2002, maybe.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, maybe not every company had one. Or
right.
Just, yeah.
So they determined by an examination of the electrical inspector and electrical engineers that the motor and drive chain assembly had definitely opened electrically as a result of the fire shorting out the low voltage side of the switch wires. So just that low voltage, never thought of the low voltage wires would activate the door. Yeah, that makes sense because they're right beside each other. Firefighters became disoriented from the backdraft, could not find the hose, were scrambling and yelling in an attempt to escape the inferno they've been caught in. Molten polystyrene insulation from the ceiling area was falling down on them. One of the firefighters who had managed to escape through the service door to the showroom later said you could hear the firefighters running into each other or running into and knocking things over, yelling and screaming, trying to escape the burning structure. One firefighter dove through the office window to escape the burning building. The escape from the service area was complicated by the 20 cars stored in the service area, of course, and the intense heat, heavy black smoke, and disorientation of that large area, panic from people being trapped. I mean, they're all experienced firefighters, so, I mean, there wouldn't be a lot of panic, but just trying to get out, I'm sure.
Well, that's a pretty big area if there's 20 vehicles stored there.
I was at a call.
And I'm sure, I mean, you get, every car probably feels the same when you can't see. So now you lost your train of thought of where the door actually is, and you're just running into stuff all over the place. I mean, you probably start panicking pretty quick when you can't get out.
Yeah, I was on a call way back in about 96 here in the department that I was on, and we had a rural, way out of town. It was actually in the other jurisdiction. There was a farm shop that was on fire. and I went in there with another guy, and we were crawling around trying to find our way, find the fire again. Lots of smoke. The guys were venting windows at the back. And we were walking around, I could remember feeling the hoists and the bumper of the car and stuff. And I think I panicked. Anyway, I turned around and I was getting out of there with my partner. I told him, I said, hey, we got to get out. I had a problem with my air pack. Now, I don't know, those old air packs didn't flow a lot of air. So to me, I said that, the malfunction, I couldn't get air. It was probably me overdrawing on the pack. And then, so then we exited, and he was mad at me. He's like, why do we exit? I said, I couldn't get any air. And so, but yeah, exactly same situation. And it was just a small 4-bay shop. So, after they exited the burning structure, immediate head count was done. So par, it was discovered that 2 firefighters were missing. Rescue attempts by the firefighters to re-enter the structure were numerous but futile, as the entire service area became quickly fully involved with fire, prohibiting entry and rescue for the missing firefighters. Within 30 minutes, the entire truss roof collapsed on the structure. So that's the summary of the call. According to the medical examiner, the cause of death for both firefighters was carbon monoxide intoxication due to inhalation of smoke and soot. So air packs weren't on or ran out, knocked off, panic, who knows. Recommendation number 1 was ensure command conducts an initial evaluation of the incident scene upon arrival at the scene. They're talking that the initial evaluation or size up should include the size and location, the structure for its combustible construction, floor area, height of the building, the exposures, any damage from flame or float or smoke, resources that are evaluated, their ability to extinguish the fire, apparatus, etc. So the big thing was size up. Did command do an adequate size up of the hazard of a tire shop with smoke that someone saw or fire that someone saw in there? The second recommendation, fire department should ensure command decision to ventilate the truss roof is based on conditions upon arrival. However, window and door ventilation should be coordinated with fire extinguishment. Only after a charged hose line is in place and ready for extinguishment is ventilation of the windows and doors most effective. So it sounds here like they vented the roof and those windows, and they weren't flowing water yet because they hadn't found the fire, right? Mm-hmm. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure Urban American Department, the truck companies do ventilation, the engine companies find the fire and extinguish it. And I mean, I've heard people before that you can't find the fire. Well, if you introduce a little bit of air and you're ready, then you find the fire faster and you can put it out. These guys, I mean, I wasn't there, don't want to speak for them, but it probably just needed a little bit of air and went from no visible fire to lots of fire. And they weren't ready. They didn't have their face pieces on or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. And the old reports don't really say whether their face pieces were found on them or not. I can assume. I know for us, I mean, you'd probably walk in, you'd probably lay the hose line on the floor somewhere, and you'd be trying to find your way around because you're trying to drag it around the cars and all the tire machines and all the other stuff. And then that garage door opening, of course, was an uncontrolled event that. Even the 1 3/4 line off of a 2.5 liter line, that's probably not enough for the amount of fire they would have had immediately there.
Yeah, I mean, there was potential for big fire, so they should have probably had big water.
Potentially, and we know that now based on all education we've had and experiences. Department should ensure that firefighters do not enter structures. This is a recommendation number 3. During ventilation, where there is a potential for built-up explosive gases to ignite and cause a backdraft or flashover, as evidenced by smoke-stained windows. So that was a key indicator at the rear of the building, and puffing smoke at the roof vents and the rear windows. So they definitely had a working fire. They had people inside, and they ventilated. It talks here about discussion. Firefighters are conducting interior attack. There's a hazard potential for backdraft or flashover, which flashover, especially nowadays, so quick with all the solidified gasoline that we live in. In the other recording we did a week ago, same thing. they were in a public library and the flashover was so fast, rapid ignition of fire and gases occurring in the burning or smoldering confined area. It probably didn't have enough oxygen. There was probably too much fire in there. And that's probably why it was just waiting for more O2, decreasing the necessary oxygen for combustion. The trigger for the backdraft explosion, sudden increase in the percent of oxygen by volume, the introduction of fresh air, which enters the structure during the initial search and entry operations. There was no such thing back then as door control. The doors were probably wide open. And as soon as the vents got opened, then oxygen's coming in, right? As demonstrated by this incident, hazardous conditions of backdraft can be present without any typical signs, such as the heavy yellow-gray smoke pushing out, the puffing that we're all taught to look for out of building joints, roof vents, and skylights. They didn't see any of that.
It was late at night. It was probably dark. It's hard to judge color of smoke when it's dark, right?
Right, actually. They didn't have light towers in 1998, not very many. They had the old stem light on top, that big round thing, and it used to telescope up and had some floodlights on it. Chicago, or I think they used to use, a lot of departments had the old night fighter, the 3-light night fighter. That was high tech in those days.
Yeah. It seems like nothing now, but
right.
Probably seemed like a lot of light back then.
It did. Absolutely. I was a big fan of night fighters. I tried to sell them on every truck that I sold. I sold fire trucks for 25 years. So definitely that was, lighting was a deal. And you just got used to working in the dark, I guess. Should ensure that firefighters conducting ventilation on the roof are in communication with command. So there's issues that maybe command, where he wasn't in charge of the ventilation. They say firefighters conducting roof ventilation can see important size-up situations not visible to the commander on the street. Roof conditions should be communicated to the command officer, relaying about the presence of what roof construction it is, the fire conditions before and after ventilation, and any other unusual conditions. This assists command officer in developing a plan of attack. I always used to teach people to do I think it was called a kerf cut. Just a little triangle just to kind of get a hole to see what you got, but it's not big enough to really contribute to significant air movement. Nowadays, a lot of departments wouldn't even get on that roof. But
another big thing it mentions is doing a 360 is nice for command, but some cities, doing a 360 means running around the whole block. So it's important for that roof man, get up on the roof and go check the backside and tell the chief or tell whoever's in command what you're seeing, because you're helping them build their 360 picture, even though they're not seeing it themselves.
Exactly. And they were just, on their roof ladders. You don't even need to get on the roof. Just give me a visual, or put the tower up and let's have a look. I was talking with our other co-host Dirk the other day. Is like, I'm waiting for the command van with the tethered drone. You just press a switch and the drone launches up, and then I've got it in my command van on video. I can see, get an overhead view of the building without having to set up the ladder or anything. They're selling those now. I know that there's two manufacturers that make tethered drones. I think that'd be a cool command tool for that on-scene commander. Recommendation number 5. Department should encourage municipalities to review and amend building codes as applicable regarding exposed polystyrene insulation. So in this fire, the unprotected polystyrene glued to the underside of the truss roof in a service area could constitute a building code violation. This also provided a condition which provided abundant fuel to the fire, which was probably a long smoldering origin at or near an improperly operating exhaust fan reported by the fire investigations, which was located on the roof directly above the parts room area. There was just a bulletin in one of my feeds about exhaust fans and how do we get, this is like apartment exhaust fans. How do we get people to be aware of the hazard of older exhaust fans or that are plugged up or worn out or overheating or bad wiring? I've personally attended a couple fires where the investigation attributed to the fire to the bathroom exhaust fan overheating and catching fire. And
I've been to a few of those too, where thankfully we got there early and kept it to that.
Yeah, we burned the roof off of one house.
There's lots of, especially here, I don't know the rest of North America, but where we live, there's lots of insulation in the attic.
Right.
And those fans overheat, that insulation can spread real quick, and all of a sudden you got a whole attic on fire.
Yeah.
And you might not know that the attic's on fire. There's no detection there. So the whole thing's on fire, and you're inside, and I smell smoke. What's going on? By the time the fire department gets there, who knows how long it's been burning for and all that stuff.
Yeah. So there was just a thing that came across my feed is what can we do as fire departments to educate building owners to either upgrade or be cautious. Timer switches is a good way where it isn't on in case you leave it on, because I've done it. You leave the fan on in the bathroom after you had a shower or whatever, and come back 3 hours later and it's still going because you forgot to go turn it off. So timer switches is a good idea as well. So, and then of course this polystyrene glued to the underside of the truss. I did a building fire one time. The foundation was one of those polystyrene foundations, and all that was left was the cement that was poured inside of it. The polystyrene was completely gone. We came to the fire like 2 days later, and there was nothing left except the cement. I was wondering how they made this weird shaped cement foundation, and there was actually, and if you dug down below the dirt, you could see where the polystyrene had extinguished or it was there still. That's it for this investigation. As I said, they were kind of simple back then, but what kind of building was it? How big is the building? Size up, communication, coordinated ventilation. Today we know from the FSRI studies and everything about, identifying the flow path and controlling it, locate the seat of the fire, all those kind of things that might have helped with this event. Any more to add, Doug?
No, I think the one thing we're good at in the fire service is when stuff like this happens, we learn from it and make adjustments to not let it happen again. So hopefully this department, other departments that have looked at this, change some of their practices so that it prevents it from happening again.
And that's why we're here, so that when our brothers and sisters are out working out, they can listen to this podcast and maybe learn some lessons from way back in 1998. No one wants to read these reports, but if we can pull them up and talk about them briefly, then it's another lesson to learn. In doing these podcasts, I'm researching them. I sure appreciate the NIOSH reports. And in Canada, we don't have anything like that. So a lot of the reports are confidential, and they go through the occupational health and safety or workmen's compensation boards, and it's hard to get information. So it's really cool that they have this as a department of the Centers for Disease Control in the States. So, all right, we'll leave it there.
Sounds good. Until next time.